Your stories of Denmark are very inspiring. We were delighted yesterday on the sidelines of your visit to enter into an agreement with the state of Green. And we hope we can bring many of your experts to interact with many of our experts in the coming days and months to put together a roadmap that takes us to our common future, which is green and which is sustainable. Ma'am, I want to first ask you a little bit around the strategic question. Green strategic partnership, I'm going to focus on the strategic. Many of us do believe today that we have a new concentration of the green future emerging in a certain part of the world. When you ask the emerging world and the developing countries to make green choices, they only have China as the supplier, China as the producer, China as the EPC contractor, China as the funds provider. There is a concentration of Chinese presence in the green future, and many of us may find it problematic to rely solely on or to have this overwhelming geographical presence of one actor in the green landscape. Do you believe EU and Denmark have an appetite to invest and become producers, suppliers, and create diversified value chains? With India and with other countries, do you believe there's an importance and opportunity to build this new and diversified and resilient green supply chains and green production capabilities?
First of all, I sometimes feel a bit embarrassing when we are talking about the global targets when it comes to climate changes, and when a rich country like Denmark asks other countries to have very ambitious goals, because I think we have to be very frank that our starting points are very different. And it is much easier for Denmark, and it's much easier for Europe to have ambitious goals. But at the same time, if you and other countries are doing all the same mistakes as we did, then we will not reach the goals in the Paris Agreement. So you need to act in a smarter way than what we did historically. But I think it's very important also to be sure that we will have the support of the populations in India and in many other places, that we are very honest about. It's easier to make a green transition in Denmark and Europe than it is in India. But we share the same world, and we are really in a hurry. So we have to work very close together. And I think this Green Strategic Partnership is fantastic. And I also think it's a bit funny, because India is such a big country. So many people live in this part of the world, and Denmark is such a small country. And this partnership between so different countries, different cultures, different traditions, but with many of the same values, can, I think, inspire the rest of the world. Then secondly, I think we need India to play a bigger role on the global scene when it comes to climate changes, but also in other difficult issues, and when it comes to tackling other difficult situations for the world. To be short, yes, I think Europe has to play a more active role internationally, also when it comes to supply, but we need India to do the same. And the European-India relationship is also important to strengthen.
Madam Prime Minister, we have seen in the recent past, lots of European companies, many Indian companies have decided to, in many ways, reset their business pathways, embrace the green trajectory, make investments into the green future. All the old established super big companies are all going green. How does this allow new geographies to emerge? How does this allow new actors to emerge? We speak about gender-led green growth, women leading this green transformation. How do we create space for them? How do we catalyze their participation? How do we ensure the future is green, but the future is also more inclusive?
That's a good question. And I'm not sure I'm able to give a total answer to that question, because you're right, many of the all big companies globally, and I can see it's the same in Denmark, is really into this green agenda. And it is, of course, much easier also to transform a private business when you have the scale than the opposite. But the majority of companies in India and in Denmark are small companies, and it will probably stay that way. So we need it to be easier to make some of the green choices when you are a startup, when you're into innovation, or when you are a small company. And I think, of course, investments and capital is very important when we are talking about that. And at the same time, for me, I'm a social democrat, so it's extremely important that we combine social welfare and sustainability and the climate change, because if we are only focusing on the green transition, I'm afraid that too many people will say, well, it's more important for me to have food enough for me and my family, to be employed, to have clean water and so on, than to talk about climate changes. So we have to build that bridge and to make sure that social sustainability and green transition goes hand in hand.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Let me turn to some of our colleagues who are in the room. Let me first turn to Shikha Bhasin, Senior Program Lead in Technology, Finance and Trade Team at the CEEW. Shikha, are you there? Yeah, there you are. Yeah, it's working.
It's working great. Good afternoon. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Madam Prime Minister. First of all, my congratulations to you and to Denmark, because of all of the countries that had taken on targets before the Paris Agreement, Denmark has actually ranked third in its performance of achieving its targets. However, collectively, that entire cohort of countries has taken almost 9 years of India's carbon space to develop, starting today. So while you're right to suggest that not all agreements and decisions are political, this particular one is. So I'm wondering, with the COP26 coming up, what is Denmark's stance on getting other countries to front-load the commitments that they haven't met as we move into the Paris Agreement? Thank you.
You know, just some few days before the leaders' meeting, when it comes to COP, the next COP, 26, we have the G20 meeting. And I think that is extremely important, that the G20 shows the rest of the world that they are all ready to deliver and to do more than that. So I think the G20 meeting is at least as important as the COP26 this year, because they are so closely connected to each other. If you're also asking me if I think Denmark and other countries should overachieve to make sure that we will actually be able to reach the 1.5 target, well, then the answer is yes. Because we need not only role models, but we also need countries who are willing to go all the way. So, yes.
I think she was also asking you if the rest of the European leaders in your neighborhood are as committed, are as excited, or are as passionate about this journey as you clearly are.
Yes and no. We have just decided on a new, more ambitious goal within the European Union. I'm very happy about that. It is not as ambitious as the Danish goal, but it's better than what it was before our discussions. Let me put it that way. There are also some differences within the European Union. And it is correct that Denmark is one of the most ambitious countries also in Europe. We also have some different starting points internally when it comes to the European Union. It is easier for some of the old Western European countries to deliver on the targets than it is for some of the old Eastern countries. We have much more renewables in Denmark than, for example, a country like Poland, so the transition that Poland needs to go through is more difficult than it is for Denmark. And therefore, again, I would like to underline that it's really important that we are aware of the differences and that we have different starting points to make sure that we have the support of our populations as well. But to be short, there is now a more ambitious goal within the European Union. So hopefully we will be able to deliver more than what we decided just a few years ago.
Let me invite Jagjit Sareen, Assistant Director General, International Solar Alliance. The mic there.
Good morning, Madam Prime Minister. Greetings from International Solar Alliance. Your vision and leadership that green growth and green transition can go hand in hand is very, very inspiring. You know, Denmark recently joined International Solar Alliance. Could we expect similar leadership from you and the government of Denmark in promoting solar as a preferred choice for energy globally? In particularly, we are looking for support of Denmark in promoting solarization of applications for agriculture use. You know, you have been promoting solar water pumps. Could we invite support from Denmark to promote this technology in least developed countries? This would help their adaptive capacity as well. Thank you, Madam Prime Minister.
I think the question is that can Denmark be playing a more active role in the least developed countries, emerging economies, and promoting solarization of their choices in the days ahead?
Yes, hopefully we can also take part in that, and I'm also very happy that we have just joined. It is, of course, extremely important because we need renewables globally, and we need also to have different choices when it comes to renewables. So we would try to also play an active part and role in this question.
And here again, is there a vision? I don't want to ask you to tell us what you spoke to the Prime Minister about, but do you think there's a role for trilateral partnerships in different regions of the world between India, Denmark, working with other countries bilaterally, trilaterally, or in a group? Is that something that is on the horizon?
Yes, I think these partnerships is a good idea because the only thing I really fear about the global discussion about climate changes is that how to make sure that we build the bridge between the wordings and our targets and the ambitious goals and concrete results. It is the difficult part is not holding a speech or saying the right words or not even to make the decision on the targets. The worst part and the hard job is to make concrete results. And I think partnerships is the right way of doing it because we have different experiences and we have different skills. When you look at different countries, it's correct. We started early in Denmark, actually before I was born, with the green transition, and that's one of the reasons why we are now so strong when it comes to renewable and especially to wind. So when different countries have different skills and experiences, we can make concrete partnerships. And actually now we are talking at India and Denmark about not only focusing on climate changes and renewables and water, but also agriculture and health, because we have had a lot of discussions, Prime Minister Modi and myself, during the pandemic. And I think in many ways the pandemic showed this, how fragile we are. We know that about climate changes, but now we also realize that when it comes to a pandemic, we are so fragile that if we are not able to work very close together, then we will not be able to give the right answers. And when it comes to vaccines and the pandemic, well, none of us are sure before all of us are secured. So I think partnerships is the right way to make sure that it's concrete.
And I really want to take this opportunity to thank you and the government of Denmark for taking leadership on actually supporting some of the South Asian countries with vaccines, especially when India was going through its terrible second wave. I think countries such as Denmark stepped up and I think that's something that we should acknowledge. And thank you, Fedi, for all of the work that you did as well. Let me turn to Serena Kumar, Senior Fellow from the Observer Research Foundation.
Good morning. Thank you, Prime Minister. Since we have been discussing health and cooperation, now my question is on vaccine inequity and how vaccine inequity is undermining global partnership on climate cooperation, and how do you think we can dispel the distrust that vaccine inequity has led to?
Because of the lack of vaccines?
I think the question here is that we have seen rich countries have got vaccines, poor countries are struggling with vaccines. Now you want the poor countries to become your friends when it comes to climate change. But when it comes to vaccines, they're on their own.
Thank you for today. I'm leaving now. No, of course, that is a very necessary question to be raised. And we have to be sure that everyone will be vaccinated. We have made some tough decisions when it comes to vaccines. And I'm not sure that I will get your support, but I'll try to explain the reason why we have made those decisions that we made. Of course, as a prime minister and as a government, you always have to take care of your own population. It's on the first page of the Prime Minister book. Your own population, or as your Prime Minister says, nation first. We had a long discussion 2 days ago about the ideas of your Prime Minister, and he was telling me again and again and again, nation first. So when it comes to a pandemic and a global strategy when it comes to vaccines, I'm sorry globally, but nationally, I have to take care of my own population. And I think it's the same picture you saw in all countries. But saying that, at the same time, you have to do whatever you can to make sure that everyone else can make the same choice. And that's the problem, that too many countries have been left behind with too few vaccines. So first of all, we need to make sure that we will not face this situation again. Because when we were in the first wave of the pandemic, we were all in lack of very simple equipment. We didn't have masks enough. We were not able to secure a sanitary and so on worldwide. And you actually asked about the global supply system. So we need to make sure that we will not be in this situation again. Secondly, we have decided to actually donate more vaccines than numbers of Danes. We have now donated around 6 million vaccines, or decided to donate, and we are not more than 5.5 million Danes. So donation of vaccines is important. And then thirdly, of course, a very close cooperation on vaccine production is extremely important. So there is a global lack of vaccines still, and it's a global responsibility to solve that situation, and even more important, to make sure that we will not face that situation again.
And do you believe this might be a factor when you are negotiating with all countries at Glasgow?
I think the meeting in Glasgow will focus on climate changes, but we are very much aware that a lot of countries are now facing a third wave or even a fourth wave of the pandemic. And the vaccines are our super weapon. I mean, that's the only way out of the global health crisis.
Great. Madam Prime Minister, I know you have to leave, you have another meeting. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for, actually I have 3 thank yous for you. The first thank you is for your inaugural address at the Raisina Dialogue. We were hoping to see you in India much earlier, We were hoping to host you in person for you to inaugurate the Raisina Dialogue this year. We had to do it virtually. So first, thank you is for your partnership and for your leadership at the Raisina Dialogue. The second thank you is for today, is for working with India, for partnering with India, for exploring opportunities and methods of greening our future, of making it more sustainable, of creating jobs, of creating value. And I thank you for your leadership, and I thank you for addressing all of us this morning in Delhi. And the third thank you is for not making us feel alone. You know, when you were speaking this morning, you said that you made the political decision without really knowing how to do it. We have been doing it for 70 years. So as Indians, we don't feel alone. We thought we were unique. But you made us feel that we were not alone in that particular attribute. And also the second part about driving without a road, we do it all the time as well. And in that sense, thank you for making us feel a part of your world as well. But just to commemorate this occasion, let me invite the powerhouse at the Observer Research Foundation, Tanubi Nongom, to present to you a memento on all our behalves. This is a Raisina memento, actually, and I owe you one for this particular speech the next time. But Tanubi, can you join us on stage? And Ambassador Swain, can you join us as well? And can I request the first man to join us as well for a family photo? Tanubi. We'll just take a family photo. And Tanubi, please join us in the middle. Please, sir. Freddie, you can come this side. You can balance it out. Yeah. You're the safest.